What's up again, Applied English? Coming back at you with more of our example essay from That Was Then, This Is Now. I have finished typing out my essay. And so far we've talked through introductions and conclusions. All that's left is the body to walk through here. Because I, once again, have a pretty small time limit on these videos, I won't be able to type out my body in front of you, but I will be able to show you piece by piece what I did for my body. I do want to look back at my introduction real quick. As a reminder, I set up my body by using my thesis statement. Brian was wrong to betray his best friend like that, but he should not be blamed for panicking in that moment. This sets up two body paragraphs. One about how it's wrong to betray his best friend. Another about how we can't really blame him for panicking in that moment. I will walk you through step by step what I did in my body paragraphs. Starting with my betrayal paragraph. Notice that it's about a half page long. My essay in its entirety ended up being shorter than 2 pages. For that reason, once again, if your essay is longer than a page and a half, you'll get you won't be docked points for length as long as you beat a page and a half or longer. Don't go any longer than 3 pages, please. At that point, you certainly have things to cut out in your essay. Please save me some reading time there. First body paragraph, I'm using a topic sentence to set up that individual paragraph. It's the first thing that goes in your body. Throughout That Was Then, This Is Now, Mark was a loyal friend to Brian, and this is what makes Brian's decision so sudden and so shocking. I'm using that topic sentence once again to bring up that point that it's wrong to betray your friend. And from there, I just launched right into my first piece of evidence. When Mark realized that the police were coming for him, he said, "Why are you doing this to me, buddy?" "Brian, just tell me." Narrating, Brian then says, "I couldn't tell him, I didn't know." Hinton 143. Notice for direct quoting, I did use a citation, author's last name and page number, period goes after my citation. I then follow up that direct quote, one of the 4 that I kind of need to get length on this essay, with my commentary. Here I'm going to explain how that evidence ties into my thesis. How does this show that it's wrong to betray your friend? Mark asked Brian those questions out of confusion because he knows he has not wronged his friend. I bring up that point there. Then I continue. The author even included the word buddy in Mark's statement to emphasize their closeness. Moreover, Brian says that he didn't know why he called, admitting that telling on Mark was a mistake. Notice that I used 3 commentary sentences there because that direct quote was so rich for my point right there. Using those 3 commentary sentences is how I explain that this was wrong for Brian to do. I then transition into another direct quote. Notice that this time I gave my page numbers inside of the sentence. On pages 144 to 145, he admits this even more clearly, stating, "If I had asked Mark to quit selling pills, he would have. I didn't have to do what I did." Notice no citation here because I put page numbers inside of the sentence. Instead of immediately calling the police, this is more commentary now, Brian should have confronted Mark about selling drugs. By listening to Brian and changing his ways, Mark would have proven his loyalty to his best friend. Here's my summary sentence, that last little sentence to close out the paragraph and summarize things up. As such, Brian was wrong to betray Mark so quickly. Notice how that summary sentence ties back to my topic sentence, which ties back to my thesis back in my introduction. My second body paragraph was a little more difficult to write. That's one reason why it's a little bit shorter than the first one. But here's where I talk about Brian's panic in that moment. All the same, notice my transition phrase right here. It is understandable why Brian would call the police in such an emotional moment. Shortly before Brian picks up the phone, he says, notice how I introduced this quote by giving some context of when this happens that is relevant for this paragraph. Notice how I use comma and then quotation mark to start my next direct quote. I have included these little 3 dots right here to show that I'm starting in the middle of a quote. That's helpful for your readers. My readers in this case. The whole mess was swirling around in my head, and it felt like it would burst wide open. Hinton 140. At this point in the story, Brian had just recently seen Eminem's family traumatized from his acid trip. The mixed emotions he had from his interactions with Eminem, Kathy, and their father clearly caused him to panic in the moment. Again, my commentary is drawing that idea from this quote that Brian's panicking, and it's understandable. Context once again, after Mark was arrested, Brian even says on page 144, my last direct quote, "I tried to remember how shook I had been about Kathy and Eminem, tried to justify what I had done." Here, this is my last bit of commentary,